All right, are you excited? It's time to do heart dissection. All right, first is you're going to get the dissection kit. Looks like this box. Pretty much everything that we need is inside this box. All right, so we'll talk about that. All right, we are going to talk supplies first. Are you ready? Okay, other supplies that are not in the box, but you're going to have to use. Goggles. So I have some that are this type, okay? And then there's some that are the traditional like strap around your head. All right, so you're gonna have to wear goggles just to protect your eyes. You don't want anything falling in them. Okay, you're going to need gloves. This is the pair that I'm going to be using. You just need gloves. You need some kind of cleaning wipe, but you have those at your table. Soap and water we have in the back. Lab apron. Okay, so they're on the back of the door. And go over your head. And then you don't necessarily need to tie it because you're not going to be walking around, you're going to be sitting. So it's really mostly to protect your lap and your clothes. If you want to, it does have ties to just tie that around your waist. Okay. And a scalpel, most likely we're not going to need, but I just threw it on here just in case. Okay. And we are going to open it up and see what is inside. One thing I should tell you as a reminder right now, goggles, put them on your eyes, lab apron on. Right now we don't need the gloves on yet because we are just opening and looking at everything that is inside the box. Okay, so are you ready? So we have the heart is inside of a Ziploc bag, so I'm going to set that aside for now. Okay, we have a student guide, okay, student instructions. We also have, this one I just looked at before, a teacher's manual, teacher directions. So there's student directions and teacher directions. I'm going to leave both in the box for you so you can use which one you prefer. There is a tray. This is the disposable tray that we're going to do the dissection on. And then you have a bag of assorted tools. So what do we have in here? Well, let's check it out. Okay, so we have a ruler. We have a hand lens. We have a couple of wipes, but we have lots of those. Okay, we have some plastic forceps, and we have a pair of scissors. Okay. This is information about digital resources, which we won't really need, okay? And then this is a wooden probe, but we may access these digital resources, we'll see. But there's all the supplies. What you're gonna wanna do is take this tray out, okay? And this bag for the tools, I can set that back in the box. I don't need that right now. I can set the box aside. And now here is going to be my work area right here, okay, on this tray. This is my work area, okay? Here is where I'm going to want to do the dissection, where everything's going to be shown, all right? So this tray right here, that's where the work is going to happen. So I need this out. You can have out these guides. That's up to you. It does provide a little bit of help, but that's where we are. Okay, are you ready? We're going to go through the dissection. This is the good stuff. Tray. Okay, let's just slide this over a little bit. I'm going to set them to the side of my tray so I have access to them when I need them, but they're not actually on my workspace. Okay. What I need to do at this point is make sure I have them on already, but make sure my goggles are on. Gloves. Put them on. All right, we might not have this color, but you need to put on gloves. Okay. One person is going to do the cutting. The other person is going to handle playing the video or looking at the dissection guides, or both. Okay, so now what I need to do is take this bag open it up right here, Ziploc. I'm just going to do that slowly because we are going to be putting the heart back into this bag after the first day. So save this bag. So I'm setting that aside. So here is my heart. Okay, so you can see it's sealed nicely in here. So I do need scissors to open this up. Okay, so I'm going to open up this heart like this. What I want to do though is I don't want to use these scissors for anything else. First, let's just make sure I cut far enough to open it up. Not quite, so let's cut closer. All right, so here we go. There we go. Now we are opened up. All right, so what I need to do, get a wipe. This is why having the partner is a good idea, because that partner can do this. So I'm going to wipe off the handle. I'm going to wipe off the blades of the scissors, okay, because I do not want that contaminated. So wipe those scissors off, okay, and then I can return the scissors. All right, so I'm going to take the heart out of the bag. Now, you will notice I have some liquid. All right, that liquid will help. If I squeeze it a little bit, more of it's going to come out. That liquid will help to keep the heart kind of fresh as we span a couple of days. So, if possible, okay, that liquid is kind of being held in here. Take this bag, the original bag, okay, and carefully put this one back in it. That moisture is going to help the heart stay fresh. All right, so I just kind of stuck it back in. Okay. A little bit messy, which is why the apron is helpful. So I'm glad I'm wearing my lab apron because I got a couple drips. All right, there we go. Just to touch the heart, feel it. Does it feel soft? Does it feel hard? What does it feel like? Just have a, have a general look at it. See what actually is visible. All right. Is it what you expected? Remember, it's made of muscle, so is that what you expected? All right, so we're just gonna set down the heart, and that's it. That was a simple one. To orient the heart, which this can be a little bit challenging, okay? So I have two atriums. So this is an atrium up here. This is an atrium over here, okay? And then my ventricles are down here. Now this point is the left ventricle. So I know this is the left atrium because that's directly above it, which means this would be the right ventricle and this is the right atrium. So it would be really hard to have it like this, but ideally that's what I want. But I'm gonna look at it like right here. So this is the right atrium, okay, right here. And then I have this big, gigantic blood vessel. That is the aorta, okay? And then I have the left atrium right here, all right? And so I need to start with this right atrium, okay? So I need that kind of facing up. So it can be a little bit difficult to maneuver, probably easiest in this case like this. I may have to kind of hold it as I navigate right here, okay? So I'm gonna have the heart. I need to be working with the right atrium. Again, aorta is a marker right here, okay? Okay, so we have to locate the right atrium and the superior vena cava, okay? So again, it can be a little bit tough. So I know this is the aorta. That's literally the largest, okay? I know that this is the left ventricle and I know this is the left atrium. okay? This right here is the right atrium. This is coming out of it. So this one right here is the right atrium, right here. Okay, so I'm going to look for a vessel near here, and here's the aorta, so I'm looking kind of near here. It's a little bit flattened, but do you see? All right, let me grab the probe and I can show you a little bit better. Right here. This vessel right here. Okay, I didn't break that open. That literally was like that. So right here. So my finger fits in there. Okay, that is the superior vena cava. Here is the right atrium. This, if I feel inside, I'm going into here. Okay, so this right now, which I have my finger, that is the superior vena cava going into the right atrium right here, this chamber. Okay, that's the superior vena cava. So that's what you needed to locate. Superior vena cava going into the right atrium right here. Here is our superior vena cava leading into the right atrium right here, this chamber. So what I need to do is use these scissors, okay, and I'm going to cut a small square inside the chamber. So like this. And it might take a couple cuts to kind of get through. All right, we can kind of see into that chamber now, okay? So we are looking into the right atrium right now, okay? If I could push my finger a little bit. Oh, can you see? Can you see the black of my finger? That's coming through the superior vena cava right into here, into this chamber. This is the right atrium, okay? But you're gonna use the probe now and go through this superior vena cava, and there we go, see, into the right atrium. So I know that I'm in the right place, superior vena cava into the right atrium. So all the deoxygenated blood from the upper body is coming through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. The lower body, the deoxygenated blood from the lower body, is going to come from the inferior vena cava, but that's not what we're looking at here. So probe through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. Vena cava, right atrium. Here we have the right ventricle. Here is the aorta. This big one down here, okay, left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium. Here's our right ventricle, okay? So I'm going to use the scissors and cut a hole in the wall of the right ventricle, okay? So like this, all right? I don't want to cut too large of a hole, all right? So you can see I'm just kind of working through it. Let's see, is that enough to... Right. Not quite enough to come out, so there we go, starting to come out on that side. So just in there, again, it could take several cuts, so be patient. All right, I'm starting to get it removed over here, but we're still stuck on this side. All right, let's see. All right, almost. You can see that already, that this wall is definitely thicker, okay? So here was the wall from the right atrium. Here's the wall from the right ventricle. So look how thick that is. It's the cardiac muscle. Okay. All right, so here we are now into the right ventricle. Okay, so you can see I can get my finger inside there. There is an opening. Okay, it is coming from, let's refresh, deoxygenated blood from the upper body through the superior vena cava into this right atrium. Then it's going to go through the right atrium into the right ventricle. Okay, it's a little bit tough to see the valve, but do you see these little strings right here? That's attaching to the valve, okay, to allow it to open and close. Okay, so going from the right atrium into the right ventricle, there we can see. All right. All right, so we'll refresh again. Superior vena cava into the right atrium. From the right atrium into the right ventricle, okay? That's all deoxygenated blood. So the blood needs to get to the lungs. So it has to leave the right ventricle, okay? And it's got to get to the lungs. And it's going to go through, you can kind of see it right here. This is the pulmonary trunk leading to the pulmonary arteries. So I'm going to try to take the probe, and this one is a little bit on the snugger side. So it's just the way this heart is shaped. This is right here, this vessel is the pulmonary trunk right here. So we'll see if I can get it to go backwards into the right ventricle. Probably need a hole in a different spot of the ventricle to get there. I can kind of start to, there we go. Go up right here. I can feel my finger right here going from here. So I'm not sure if I can get here with the probe. Let's try again. You can see it coming right here. Obviously the probe can't turn. The blood is going to flow in the vessel, but there it is into the pulmonary trunk. Okay, so from the right ventricle to the pulmonary trunk, which is going to go to the lungs. We have aorta, all right. We have the right atrium, all right. We had this vessel right here, the superior vena cava leading into that right atrium, right ventricle. And then we have this pulmonary trunk right here, this big vessel going into, or coming out of technically, the right ventricle, which is going to the lungs. Okay, so now here we have the left atrium. And as I'm looking on this one, I don't see clear pulmonary veins, so we may have to kind of start the dissection to see if they become obvious. All right, but that's what we're looking for. Through this pulmonary trunk right here, here it is, this pulmonary trunk, went to the lungs, there was gas exchange, and now the oxygenated blood is coming back right here to the left atrium. So we're going to do the same thing, okay, and use our scissors to cut an opening in the wall of the left atrium, okay. All right, so there we go. Okay, so we can see this is inside of the left atrium. Oh, and there we go. See sometimes how the vessels are hard to locate right here. This, which I'm sticking my fingers through right now, it was kind of hidden the way the heart was folded. There is pulmonary vein. So the blood is flowing back through this, coming from the lungs and straight into this left atrium. It was straight through one of the pulmonary veins, okay, this way. If you want to use a probe instead, you could do that. Go from the left atrium, and then you're going to come through like this. So blood coming back from the lungs, oxygenated, and going into the left atrium. So we can kind of see inside of the left atrium right now. So let's look. Here was the thickness, the wall of the left atrium. This was our cut from the left atrium. You can see in comparison, here was the right atrium, similar thin thickness, and then here, that was the right ventricle, and now we are going to cut into this left ventricle, okay? Now, we know that the left ventricle is the hardest working chamber of the heart, and it has to pump blood to the entire body, so it needs the most muscle. It also needs the most blood supply, okay? So it is the thickest. It is where the apex, this point of the heart is. So that's one of the things that you can use to help orient yourself if you aren't sure what you're looking at in the heart. The other big thing to orient yourself, again, is the aorta, this big, huge, garden hosed size blood vessel, okay? Now, again, this is a pig heart that we are dissecting here. Any heart that we dissect from a mammal is going to be similar, but this is obviously larger than a human heart. A human heart about the size of a fist. You can see comparatively, this is definitely larger. All right, so let's see how we're doing. All right, so we got part of it, but you can see we still can't really see into the chamber yet. So we have to remove some more muscle here. Remember, the heart made of cardiac muscle, okay? Involuntary, not under conscious control, unlike our skeletal muscles, which are voluntary. The cardiac muscle is involuntary. Thank goodness. Can you imagine if you had to think all the time about making sure that your heart was beating? Okay, that would be problematic. All right, so I'm getting there. Oh, finally, I think we're in. All right, look at that though. Look how thick I had to go. Look how thick the wall of this ventricle is. So I'm just trying to open it up a little bit more, trimming back a little bit of the muscle on the side. Okay, so pull out what I just trimmed. Okay, gives me a little bit better of a view into the left ventricle. Okay, so the left ventricle, left atrium. Okay, into the left ventricle, but can you see? So let's see, look, see the thickness of this compared to the thickness of the right ventricle, and then look compared to the right atrium compared to the left atrium. This left ventricle, super muscular, super thick. Okay, all right, so we're trying to look, might have to just trim back just a little bit more of this muscle on this side. I'm just trying to get a good view of the valve inside here, and I have so much muscle that it's a little bit hard to see. Well, I think we had a better view. All right, well, sort of, you can see it right here. So you see these strings right here? Right there? Okay, those are attached to the valves, which go from, here was my left atrium, my left ventricle. I have to go through, that valve is going to close and not allow blood to go backward, okay? We could kind of see it a little bit better on the right side. So see these right here? That's much clearer. So you might not be able to see it as clear on the left side, but look how clear on the right side. Those are attached to the valves, which again, right here you could see. See that valve? I'm pressing on it right now. Okay, that is going to keep blood from flowing backwards. So it's going to keep blood flowing in the correct direction. I have same kind of idea. All right, I have this extra tissue. Maybe if I get it out of the way, maybe, just maybe, I can see. Nope, I don't get as good of a view on this side. So we have a pretty good view on the right side, but you can see the idea. I'm coming through the valve, going from the left atrium to the left ventricle. That goes all the way down here into the left ventricle. So it's a little bit hard to maneuver. What you might be able to, here's my suggestion. Take your finger, go down the aorta, and then put your finger into the left ventricle, and you will feel your fingers touch at the valve that is between, that's the aortic valve, between the left ventricle and the aorta, okay? All right, so it might be a little bit difficult with the probe because it's kind of a little bit twisty, turny, okay? But I can definitely, when I go in through the left ventricle, I can feel my finger, I can touch the other one going down, okay? All right, one last quick orientation. So aorta, this big, huge one right here. Okay, we have the right atrium right here, and it is right here, superior vena cava right here, right behind the aorta, okay? And the superior vena cava blood, deoxygenated blood from the body goes through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. And then blood goes from the right atrium into the right ventricle. And then the right ventricle pumps blood from the right ventricle through, this one was just harder to make happen, through here, through the pulmonary trunk. So this big vessel kind of wrapping like this U-shaped one in the front, that's the pulmonary trunk. The pulmonary arteries branch off of it, one to the right lung, one to the left lung. It's going to go do gas exchange in the lungs, and then going to come back through, remember it was hidden behind here, pulmonary veins, and the pulmonary veins are going to empty into the left atrium. And then blood is going to go from the left atrium into the left ventricle, and the left ventricle, the thickest, most muscular chamber, and then just go from the left ventricle up through the aorta. And if you kind of put one finger through the aorta and one finger up through the left ventricle, you'll be able to touch at the valve, okay? And there is the general structure of the heart. Now, if you are really curious and want to see inside, I will allow you to do that, to use a scalpel if you want to like cut open the blood vessels, see what they look like, to do a little bit more exploration of the heart. Absolutely, I encourage it. Okay. The ruler, which you may need for several of the questions, that has to get wiped off. The plastic forceps, if you use them, you can just ditch them. I don't really need to keep these, but they're good in emergency. So if you haven't used it, I would keep it. The hand lens, okay, wipe it off and put it back into the bag. All right, then we have this. So we have our wooden probe, literally not saving it. And we have the tray with our little pieces of the heart. If this was broken up into multiple days, I would just literally take this whole thing and put it in the bag. We are all done right now, so we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to literally lift up all the tray with the heart, with all the pieces, okay, and put it inside the bag. Now, if we had to revisit it the next day, we would just get the bag and take it back out, okay? But we want to keep all the pieces that have the heart stuff on it together, all right? This was the top from the bag that I cut off, that I can just throw out, okay? So if we're splitting it up into 2 days, which most of you will be, you're going to seal up this bag nicely. So you're going to make sure that it has a good seal on it, okay? And then you're going to put this where you're instructed to put it so that you can use it the next day, okay? All of these instruments should be cleaned off. We should be using wipes. We can use the sink, wash them off. No matter, even if you use the sink at the end, you are going to have to use a wipe and clean them off. And then we should be done. Remember, you can use this illustration right here, this guide to help you. The person who is not doing the dissection can absolutely help you with that. But there you go. That is the awesomeness of a heart dissection. It's great to see it, to feel it, to touch it, and to learn a lot more about it.
And that is the heart dissection. Oh my gosh, was that so exciting? I hope you learned something new.